Scots voted to stay part of the UK. To give some more insight into the vote and for a look at the global markets in general, I'm joined right here in studio by Naeem Aslam. He's the Chief Market Analyst at AvaTrade in Dublin. Naeem, thanks for your time. I think I may have given you a new name during the intro. You were Naeem somebody else, but thanks for your time. First time in Johannesburg, so welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
So the Scottish vote,
Yes.
It's a no. What does this mean? And what would it have meant if it was a yes?
Okay. Basically, it's an uncertainty which traders don't like. Now, that uncertainty in the market is out because they are going to stay with them. Now we're going to see a flow of investment back into the UK for the UK equities, because what this referendum has done, it made traders extremely scared about investing into UK equities. A lot of money actually kind of going out of the UK equities in different places. And then in terms of a currency, we saw a sharp sell-off as we were walking towards the referendum. But now we know that it is going to stay as a one country, as the United Kingdom. So basically the inflation, which is on the Bank of England's mandate, it was one of the biggest things that they were trying to do, and the real wage growth. These two things were going to get really badly hit if we had a yes vote. But given that we have a no vote, it is very good for the currency and for the country that we are going to move forward. And that is where we stand for, in terms of United Kingdom.
So just looking at that, you mentioned that this was very positive for the equity markets. In the UK, the financial sector are very, very strong there. Lloyds Bank and RBS rallying quite a bit there. The commodities, was there any impact particularly there?
Yes, commodities were kind of picking up, especially gold, when we are talking about, which is very, I mean, it's starting out really badly today because the fear in the market has evaporated. If not, in terms of a banking sector, banks were thinking, okay, we are going to move our headquarters from Scotland to London. And to be honest with you, I am not entirely convinced yet that if that is actually not going to happen. But for today, that question is out of the equation. But referendum is certainly something which can take place again, because let's go slightly more into the future. UK is going to have something pre-exit, right? So they're going to say, okay, we wanted to come out of the EU, possibly if Mr. Cameron stays within his power. If that happens, we know Scots, they don't want it to leave EU, they wanted to stay in the EU. And if that happened again, so we could have a referendum question popping back up once again. And that is something that traders going to have to value that thing. And for banks to have that kind of uncertainty back in the equation, it is not something which is good. But the fear is off today. We are seeing a rally in the equity market. Gold is selling down on that one. And EU members altogether, because Spain were very much worried about the Catalonians, they're going to go for a referendum. Now I think they are in a better position. Perhaps the referendum will go ahead, but they are in a slightly better position when the time will come, and then probably EU is, inside it, that they will be very happy with the situation, what happened in the UK today.
Okay, well, let's shift gears. Let's talk about Alibaba. We have all been looking very much ahead to this IPO. It's making its debut on the New York Stock Exchange. But perhaps, do you not think there wasn't enough skepticism around it? It is a Chinese company. Of late, there have been incidences with Chinese company where it's been flagged their financial stability and their financial records. Just to go through some of the alleged ones, we had AgFeed, which was one of the companies that was said, you know what, are your records in place? We had Ultrasonic AG, and one that is more recent, Tiane, which is a chemicals group. So are we perhaps giving, Alibaba too much leeway?
I think, I don't know about the leeway thing, if they are getting or not, but there's absolutely a strong demand for Alibaba. They had to close their books well ahead of their schedule. The price that they gave was 60 to 66 when they went for an IPO. And even today on our trading books and in our company, even in UK grey market, the price was between 60 to 66. Then they increased the price to 66 to 68. And the grey market, where the people who cannot actually go into and buy shares, they start trading before that in the grey market, that we we are seeing the price of Alibaba near $90. Now, this thing has a huge potential because we are talking about Chinese growth over here. And China has pumped nearly 80 billion only recently. So it is, I think it's a very interesting aspect because we are combining two different continents. We are bringing Asian company into America. It's completely two different cultures. I mean, 500 million Chinese don't have an internet yet. Yet the company has done 49 million transactions, grossing up to 300 billion worth of transaction monetary value of that one. Every single Chinese is nearly spending $1,000 per annum. And if we compare them to their revenue or their competitors such as Amazon, where the market is actually, they went to America, they said, okay, we wanted to grab this market. If you compare this to Amazon, if you compare this to eBay, the stock is still selling a lot more cheaper. If Alibaba be able to come up with a 50% of what they did last year, they'd be still selling at nearly a 25 times the price to earning ratio. So it's a very interesting company. We very much like the stock, and I think it has a huge potential to go upwards. And recently they have acquired a number of companies in China, because in China it's more about mobile play.
But Naeem, you said that the stock will continue to go upwards. Now, yesterday, the past 2 days, we've seen the Dow Jones at record levels, S&P 500 also at record levels. When listed companies, are they able to continue this phenomenal rate of growth? Can they still do it?
I think that the potential is there, because we are talking about 500 million Chinese who are actually not using that. And then the Chinese growth there's a massive potential on this one. And then Alibaba has recently acquired a company, if I can remember, I think it was ICW, if not IVW, but it's a massive company that they have launched in America, and they're kind of trying to do the same sort of a format in America, which is going to increase their revenue. And back in China, like one of their competitors is Tencent, well known. They've acquired JD.com. And then this is the biggest threat for Alibaba, and that's where my concern lies when I'm talking about Alibaba, or when I'm talking about buying into Alibaba entire
So
story.
Tencent is your concern there?
Tencent is my concern there, but Alibaba is not sitting on their hands and said, okay, we don't want it to do anything, let the competitors come into the market. They haven't done that. The CEO he's a very clever guy. Only started with a 10,000 something money in 10 years back, and then now his company is like, they're looking to raise nearly 22 billion, and if they were able to raise 22 billion, we are talking about with a market capitalization of 170 billion.